stuck in France
And
with
you had a
no.
flight that got canceled, I'm guessing?
Yes, the flight got cancelled, and the airline just dumped me.
Wow.
No, I mean they have a legal obligation to find me some alternative, but they just dumped me. Yeah. Fend for yourself.
Well, I mean, there's no flights into Israel, so what are they going to do? It's a war.
Ah, wait. I mean, some other airlines would say, wait 3 days and we fly you when it's clear.
Uh-huh.
That's what some other airlines would do. My airline just,
Which
we give
airline?
you. Never mind.
Okay, I won't tell it.
I'm saying that on the positive note, Wizz Airline seems to be the good ones.
Huh.
Quite,
I would have
quite.
thought El Al would be the best. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different price range.
El Al is definitely a different price range. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Anyway, nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody has any estimate.
I hope we're not talking about more than 3 days. I mean, that would be a lot.
No, how much can you bomb? I mean, after 3 days, you run out of things to bomb.
You might have said that about Gaza.
Yeah,
Is I don't know if you heard Ehud Olmert's interview
no,
with Ezra Klein.
no, did not hear it, and I will not going to hear it. He's a convicted felon, and
Really, I mean, it
not a very,
was
very
shocking. It was shocking. My response was to tweet out, "God save us from people who think that every problem has a solution. Therefore, their solution must come into being." They
okay. Now I'm curious. What is the solution?
He thinks that the United States needs to boycott Israel.
Okay, and then.
And then that will force Bibi to stop the war and have elections, and there will be peace throughout the Middle East.
Okay. Statement of the problem. How do you kick out Netanyahu and install the opposition as a government? Solution. You boycott Israel. I completely agree. This is the right solution to the problem as stated.
I
So I was watching your live stream yesterday,
Yeah,
3 o'clock Europe time,
yeah.
and then you mentioned in passing that there was something going on with Iran. And then I had to leave your very interesting broadcast and start listening to the real news to see what's happening. Otherwise, I would not have known till the morning.
Ah, so yeah, I provided a good service. Yeah,
Yep, the
yeah.
other my main source of up and
News.
coming news. Yes.
Well, I mean, that's that's how most people do relevance realization. They get their news from people who know them, saying, "Hey, did you hear?" You know, and that's actually how it should be. But yeah,
Okay, so you said you have no trust in the people who are conducting this military operation.
correct.
If by that you mean that you only trust in God and not in people, then yes, it is the right statement to make.
That is generally my belief, but this is worse than that.
Mhm.
I am not 100% sure that the reason this military operation was undertaken right now was for military purposes as opposed to shoring up, wagging the dog type thing. political maneuverings.
That's not wagging the dog. That is not wagging the dog. Wagging the dog refers to something else.
Wagging the dog in the United States refers to politicians starting wars in order to there was a movie, Wag the Dog.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So 13.
Sorry. Would you mind going upstairs? I'm trying to research Paris.
Okay. I have to stop for a while because I'm annoying my wife. I will be with you in a second.
Give your wife my best. So, fabulous, savage, macho man, Michael Sartori. How you doing?
Oh, I'm all right. I wanted to come on because I had started listening to that Reconquista video and I didn't finish it, and then I thought it was a hilarious bad ending or whatever that he got to.
What was hilarious about it?
Oh, it was just lame. Oh, so the thing about like the kids and stuff. I mean, I think that's like 90% of like what has gotten things in the mess that things are in.
Yeah. I mean,
because here's the thing. It's like, yeah, you're and even the fact that he said like my parents did this, and then it's like, yeah, well, you know what, your dad should have gotten up and told the pastor that he was, preaching heresies or whatever, called him out, and then left the church, like, or whatever, not just leave because you want to, protect the kids or whatever from hearing the wrong ideas. And that is also like the exact thing that that Redeemed Zoomer is always complaining about, with the conservative impulse to just leave and go to safer spaces or whatever.
I mean, his flat out assertion that Martin Luther was not a splitter is a flat out assertion that I think is very difficult to actually defend. So, yeah.
I don't think it is, but that's fine. He had the authority to perform the sacraments and all that stuff. He had the right to say the things he did from the Catholic Church, and then they said, we don't want to listen to you, and tried to kill him. I mean, it is in the history of schisms, it's often the just that the majority gets to call the minority the schismatic. And sometimes there are people that just wake up one day and find out that they are schismatics. That happens a lot more than tends to get reported. Like it happened like not that long ago. I don't know all the details, but it was like some convent or something in Dallas, and I think there was like some shenanigans or whatever. Like there was something going on, but literally the church just said like that is no longer part of the church. And it was like, I don't know, there's some people that are, I'm sure, regular people that had no idea, and then it's like, well, what are you going to do if the church that you've gone to every week, you suddenly find out like somebody on the other side of the world says your church is not valid anymore? You going to stop going to the church you've been going to? I mean,
Yeah, it's interesting to me because like all of this trying to understand Christian polity has made me wonder like what the analogs are within Judaism and why we don't have many analogs like that. Yeah.
I don't get it, because I've never been like, I've never the obsession with like unity as being like we're all in this bureaucratic organization together, which they all are. all the denominations, like that when you're saying like when you're talking about like what's uniting some group of churches, it's just like a bureaucracy basically in this day and age. And like I think it's dumb, like because I think that you have to, like, unity, it matters geographically more than anything else. So like obviously if you have a split in your local church, like that's not a great situation. And especially because that means you probably are going to have like people that are technically, you know, really your neighbors, and you're not talking to them anymore. But beyond that, it's like it's more important to me like that churches in the same town like get along with each other than that every particular brand of a church, you know, across the country gets along.
For me, it's the absolute opposite. What I like about Chabad is I know I can go to any Chabad house anywhere in the world, and I know what to expect.
Well, no, there's nothing wrong with that. And that is a good thing about like, yeah, like I'm not like I think that's why it's good to have a diversity of things, and to have like I'm not, you know, but it's, you know, but I'm sure even if you like I'm sure there's better and worse Chabads.
There
right?
definitely are better and worse Chabads. I mean, there are different types of Chabads, but I know that if I walk into a Chabad synagogue, there's not going to be an Israeli flag in the sanctuary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so like yeah, and it's good to have that as like a minimum, you know, whatever, some minimum.
There's not going to be a female rabbi.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But
yeah.
I don't know, because I mean, Redeem Zoomer, his thing too. I think he was right when he was talking about like these institutions are not that important anymore. Like as far as like the main line, like you know, I think the
universities matter.
What?
Buildings and universities.
Well,
matter.
no, yeah, they do. But honestly, that matters more, which is really why if Redeem Zoomer was really smart, he would have focused only on denominations that have where the local churches own the buildings, because you can go and conservativize a congregation, and then you're going to have to that, you know, a lot of these denominations, the denomination owns the building, so they say we don't want your bigoted version of Christianity in there. We're just going to sell this building to developers and bulldoze it or whatever, you know? So, but if you, you know, if it's organized in such a way that the local body owns the building, then then it's your church once you get a majority of people in there that, you know,
just to the same clarify beliefs. Something, I don't know the almighty Om. He's coming from Sartori's channel.
That's Al.
That's Al.
Yeah.
There are no Jews who do not study Tanya and Kabbalah, really. On the internet, you have these rationalists who are anti-Kabbalah. Like, that's not a genuine real world thing.
See, now you're just making schisms just by identifying people according to your majority opinion.
I generally like majority opinions.
I know you do.
Yeah, I am.
But sometimes it's not that majority opinion is definitely not an infallible.
It's definitely not infallible. Almost nothing is. I mean, I don't know if there's anything I consider an infallible rule. I like to say I am about to turn 48. My views are not what they were when I was 38 or 28 or 18, and certainly not when I was 8 years old. So I don't expect when I turn 58 to have views, you know, that are, and to say that something is infallible, like, yeah, that the whole fallibility wars, I don't know.
Yeah, actually, you know what was a pretty interesting video that I did see today was Gospel Simplicity, guy Austin, that PVK had him. He had PVK on his channel, so he did one on a Catholic megachurch.
Megachurches? Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that. I didn't actually watch the video, but I saw that he had made it. Yeah, what about it?
I mean, it's just like, it's funny. Like, it just shows like how much like obliviousness there is to like normies on the internet. Like, because it's only people that are obsessed with religion and the inner workings of it that are always flooding these spaces with their strong opinions. Like, and so like there in that church, there's probably people that will go, don't care what the worship's like because it's Catholic. There's people that go there because they like the way the church is, who might or might not care that it's Catholic. And there's like probably a variety of opinions in between. People, most of the time, people are go back to those places because like they're doing things right and the people are kind and decent. Like, even the whole the entertainment factor is so overblown. Like, because people don't want to get up on Sunday mornings to go to rock concerts. Otherwise, that's when they would have rock concerts. Like, it's. I mean, it's like, it might be a preference, but it's not that people are like.
No, what it is people who feel an obligation to go to church on Sunday morning and say, I would prefer if it was what it was. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's it's just definitely one of those viewpoints that gets strawmanned, I think, as just wanting entertainment. But yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting, though.
No, it definitely does not mean Jacob is part of the corner.
This is a Peterson Sphere corner estuary we're having right now.
Yeah, so when we had the estuary on Tuesday, my downstairs neighbor came, and so estuary starts with everybody saying how they came to be there, and I think Trey started it, but everyone went down and they're like, Paul Vanderplay, Paul Vanderplay, Paul Vanderplay, and of course my neighbor had no idea who Paul Vanderplay is, but yeah, that was interesting to me. Yeah. Okay, I don't know this Al guy. I don't know who you are, but you don't know much about Judaism. Like that, I don't know what else to tell you, Al.
Al is an autodidact, so what he knows is he can learn. If you're, if it's information that's difficult
Google,
to.
Google, I see. If you can Google it, he knows it. I see. Okay.
Well, no, he reads books. He's a smart guy. Al you should come on if you can.
Okay. I mean, but what I can tell you is, like, Tanya is standard in vast majority of like communities. So yeah, like, does everyone like there? Yeah, the people who rail against Tanya are far and few in between. Kel Zeldin's conversation with his mom was interesting. I didn't know that his dad was Jewish. I knew Zeldin, is a Jewish last name, but I thought it was further on. It was very curious to me that his mom was such a devout Catholic, yet she married somebody who wasn't even baptized. Like, I don't think we see that in Judaism, where someone who is genuinely devout will marry someone who's not Jewish at all. Yeah, I found that part of the story. Did you watch this?
I didn't. I just watched the parts that are on PVK's video. I didn't watch the whole thing.
It was pretty interesting. His mom, she's an interesting type of cradle Catholic because, like, she's very, very devout. At the same time, she, like, what? I mean, you can't doubt her sincerity in her Catholic faith, but at the same time, she got a dispensation to get married in a church to a man who wasn't Catholic at all. It's like, well, what are you doing there? Like, what's going on there? Why are you marrying somebody who isn't at all your religion? Even though apparently he was very supportive of her, like, and agreed to raise the kids to Catholic, etc., etc., etc. Yes,
Well,
you did miss the downstairs neighbor.
I mean, well, the things that you can put on a list or in a document are not the most important bases for which to pick a spouse. So,
what's like, how, if your religion should, and it does, control, like she was talking about.
Well, no, okay. So let me rephrase that in a sense. What I mean is that it's very possible for you to have on paper all the same beliefs as somebody, but the way that they express those beliefs or what it means to them or how it plays out in their life is not does not cohere with what you understand, and so it's not a good match. And there's the whole personality aspect. So the personality aspect is
okay, but she was
more
talking about trying to figure out whether, she said she was getting married and that's why she was trying to figure out what kind of birth control they could use, and she was like asking priests, etc., right? Somebody who's asking priests about birth control, but not about, like, should I marry somebody who hasn't been baptized? Like, how is that? Like, that makes zero sense to me.
Well, okay. I mean, it's not surprising to me because the whole, I mean, first of all, this is there's so much stuff that goes into these things, all religions or whatever, over their long history, that it got in there because of like behavior management. Like that was the point. We don't want people to do X, so let's pass a rule that says Y, and then that'll prevent them. And then it just makes all this weird cognitive dissonance where people are all super afraid of not breaking one dumb rule and missing the whole point of the thing, which is, like to have a life that is very reflective of humanity's being made in the image of God. So like, so you can definitely miss the point. And I mean, if and I also think it's probably it's weird how like so you said because I didn't watch it, but she was a cradle Catholic, so she grew up in it. And were her parents too, or yeah? So I mean, here's the thing: like cradle Catholicism, it's weirdly devout in some pockets, but like, I mean, I know like a lot of Italians, and like it's not like and here in Texas, it's like there's a lot of Mexicans where it's like they just live medium sinful lives, and it doesn't have any effect on their being Catholics and whatever, and like yeah, they probably go to confession once a year or something, or maybe like, it's like, oh, I have a kid now, I should take this seriously. And the fact that they haven't been in church for like 10 years doesn't really bother them in any aspect other than I'm going to take it seriously now. Like
it's like Masorti Jews in Israel, where Orthodox Judaism is the only recognized religion, and so when they get married, well, legally they kind of have to go to the chief rabbinate to have a Jewish wedding, and yeah, they just don't care. And the fact that they don't actually practice, like, they end up having kosher. There's a lot of Jews in Israel who end up eating kosher by default because it's kind of hard not to eat kosher unless you're in Tel Aviv. Because all the restaurants are kosher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's even like really Catholicism and maybe it's weird because in America they are the immigrants and minorities at a certain point, especially like within the broader communities, or as they're getting there, they're minorities for sure. But like, when you go to all these other countries, like Islamic countries or something like that, it's like you might never go to a church in your life, but you are like born Christian or you're Muslim or you're Jewish. And your religion is a thing that you're born into that is not, it's very difficult to change often, but it's not, it's just not.
So one thing I've been trying to help people from the West understand about Muslim countries is in a Muslim country, if you start asking another Muslim about their beliefs, that is viewed with incredible suspicion. And it's almost, no, it's not almost. It is more of a faux pas than to ask about the intimate details of someone's sex life with their wife in the United States.
That's interesting.
Yeah, like, and which mosque do you go to? Well, whichever one is the closest. Who cares who the imam is? The imam's gonna say something, but like nobody, like, I don't think I have ever heard a Muslim actually discuss the sermon that the imam gives on a Friday. Like, which I mean, maybe it happens in Muslim circles and they just, I haven't seen it, but I've never seen it. Like, and that's how Saudi Arabia kind of took control of so much of Islam, is they just built all the mosques and hired the imams that they wanted, and nobody says anything.
They just decided to become the Vatican of Islam.
Yeah, I mean, well, they have the money, and they're the ones who are building the buildings, and they're staffing the imams, and people just go to the mosque that's closest to them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that's the alternative, the whatever the alternative history or whatever is that was like a later development or whatever, like the centrality of Mecca and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is that whole thing where it was like whatever, they burned all the variants of the Quran. So, so there it's definitely one that is okay. Well, this this is an interesting thing. So if you define unity as uniformity, then you because we are not ants or I don't know, whatever, some very hive mind like people. I mean, you have to be a little bit, you have to pick and choose what the points of uniformity are going to be and how much of a person's life are controlled by them. So that's why you kind of get these, and it's sort of the same thing with Catholicism, where it's like, here's a minimal number of things you have to be have a particular view on to remain in the club, and if you don't mess up those, nobody really cares what you're doing with 98% of the rest of your time in a given week.
Could you imagine what it would be like if generally what most Christians did every week was just go to the church that was closest to them? Like, what would that be like? Like, could Christians do that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it would be, well, I mean, yeah, sure. There's a church very close to our house. We work, my wife's employed at at a different one. It's not too far away, but I mean, I mean, so I actually kind of think, well, this is an interesting thing, because obviously, like, I think that like, going back to the worship thing, like the preferences that people have, like, that is it's good for people to be able to congregate around some of those things, but it would also be good to have some of those other things too. So I think it would actually be really ideal if there was some, well, like third places, like the things that we don't have anymore. But it would be great if people had like a church of their preference and the church that is the most local church, and they went to both, maybe on different days or something.
Well, in Orthodox Jewish life, people who go to prayers 3 times a day, like most of the week, they'll just go to whatever's most convenient. And then for holidays and very long services like the Sabbath services, they'll have a particular synagogue where they like it, which is where they go. Yeah. But that's because you're saying your prayers 3 times. And in Israel, like when you're traveling, like there's a minyan, like especially like around 2 to 5 p.m. If you're at a bus stop, somebody's trying to make a mincha minyan, like just finding 10 men and doing a quick prayer service. Yeah.
Have you seen anything with that guy, Rory Sutherland, the marketing guy? He's been on like a million podcasts.
Who?
He's his name's Rory Sutherland. He's a fat British guy. He's hilarious. Okay. You should watch any podcast that he's on. He's hilarious.
Rory Sutherland.
Yeah. But like he talks about like why like people love McDonald's. People don't love McDonald's because it's good. They like it because it's reliably not like poisonous or whatever.
Well, actually, so one of the Rebbe's big things was anything that was a big like thing in American culture, he believed that there must be a reason in God's work for it. So when franchises came out in the 70s, the Rebbe started having Chabad houses in the franchise model.
Yeah, because he said it's the same thing with chain hotels. Right. And actually what the chain hotels do is then they what do you say, like they don't necessarily, like, they're not going to raise the bar as far as like excellence, but they drastically raise the floor. And so then, because he said before that, it was like, what are you going to do? You look at a hotel, it's got a nice building, it's historic, it's been around for a while, but if it's being run by a guy that doesn't care, it's terrible. And so it's hit or miss. You don't know, but you have that consistency with the Motel 6 or whatever,
Right.
So then you can and by doing that, then they force all those mom and pop places to find at least to meet that minimum requirement, and then maybe find some niche area that they can actually have a reason why you would go there instead of just going to the chain.
Before the internet, that was a much bigger thing to do, and important. I am going to put Michael's stream into the chat. You guys might want to go watch on Michael's channel because he needs the watch hours. What else was I going to say? Oh, so Adam actually lives in a Muslim country and was raised Muslim, so he knows what he's talking about. Discussing the imam's sermon is mostly like husband and wife handling their arguments in private. We generally discuss that only between us. And when you say in a Muslim country only between us, that doesn't mean between us Muslims. It means between me, my mother, my father, and my siblings, and my children. Maybe not even my own wife. Yeah. Yoav has been trying to join over and over again. I'm wondering if he actually had something he wanted to say. Probably not. He might not even be there right now. Sometimes coworkers on good days. Okay. Yeah, maybe things are a little worse in Iran. Yeah, talking to people about stuff. So one of my big memories as a child in Iran was when you walk down the street. So everyone's house, their front yards are walled off, right? You like the idea that you could walk past someone's house and look inside their house the way you can in the United States was just bizarre, right? So there's always a walled off. You can't see into somebody else's house. That's for sure, right? As you're walking in the street. And I was walking down the street with my dad, and there was a so it's all walled off houses, and there was this house where the front wall in front of the yard had been bulldozed down, and then the front of their house, the facade of the actual house, had been bulldozed down. So it was kind of like a dollhouse.
Like a dollhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, that the front is cut off.
Yeah.
And I was I was like 4 years old. I didn't understand what was going on, so I asked my dad, like, what happened? And he just said, they're Baha'i. Baha'i is a religion that's outlawed basically in Iran. And because the religious police had decided to basically humiliate these people, they had bulldozed the wall in front of their house and the front of their house. And like, that's a uniquely Muslim punishment, I would say.
It's interesting because it's like, I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of similar like with the whole thing with like the hijab and stuff. Like, I know like they'll say like, oh, it's actually beautiful because it's like protecting the modesty. And it's like, it kind of it does seem to have an element of shame about like the like human nature or something, you know. I mean, I think that, well, it also, you know, they basically, it seems whatever the rules with like men and like being caught. It's like if you men can't get in trouble for anything if there's not like another man present or whatever. It lets them off the hook, and obviously I think there is a lot of misogyny, and I'm sure not I'm sure there's many Muslim couples that love each other and are faithful, but it does allow the bad actors to get away with a lot. And there are similar, I can say similar things about like the more like patriarchally obsessed Christian groups,
especially the polygamous ones. But yeah. I think once you have polygamy, that like polygamy really changes the nature of the gender relationship between men and women.
Yeah, because it creates, it's like, I tried to explain this to somebody and said, like, this is a dumb thing about evolutionary psychology, always trying to talk about, like, these biological drives and, like, explaining things. And, like, okay, that's fine. It's fine that we have, there's these biological drives. But I was like, but once you realize that men and women, males and females are born at basically the same rate, and you basically, over any sample size, are going to have a roughly equal number of men and female, you should be able to figure out how anything other than monogamy is going to cause problems by making these imbalances. You have unmarried men in excess, and then you have these guys that are always trying to protect their harems or whatever. It's like, it's...
Well, generally polygamy developed in societies where there was, like, men were being killed off in large.
Yeah, but why? What causes men to be killed off? Most men not being married.
Well, yeah, if most men aren't married, but there's a chicken and egg problem there.
Yeah. Well, but that's the whole thing, because it's like this: if you're the warlord, you have a harem, and then you also have your loyal guys, and you keep them in control by giving them a taste. You give them permission to marry, or whatever. You let them take the women they steal or something like that. But then it's like, whenever once the guy at top starts to get physically old and personally physically can't enforce it, he has to become suspicious of the people under him who are able to take the top spot. And then it's just it's like these power dynamics keep happening, because it's not a secure position. Like,
I actually don't think the physical.
Originally it probably would be, whatever, but like money and because that's the thing. It's like you have to, if you want to be the guy that has all the wives, you have to use your money and your power and the people loyal to you to control and keep the other guys that want to take your spot at bay. And it's like, if the loyalty that people have to you is only based on those things, then it's always somewhat in peril, because it's not there's no trust. It's not a trust-based relationship. It's just transactional.
Yeah. I wouldn't enforce hijab, but it kind of gets on my nerves that maybe I'm spending too much energy at work because of high levels of testosterone due to immodesty.
Just
I'm naturally modest around here. Don says, the shrouded Muslim woman carries all the burden of saving men from their own urges, while the undressed Western woman puts the whole burden on men. Both of these are not good. And Ron is wondering what he walked into. You walked into us discussing stuff on a Friday morning.
Can I take an
Of
opportunity to
course,
pivot?
of course, please.
Okay, on the subject of a large harem,
Yes.
I want to refer to yesterday's discussion of King Solomon. There was something that bugged me in that discussion, is the statement that King Solomon was the wisest person ever, the
Mhm.
wisest person that is going to be. There's not going to be any person wiser than King Solomon in the future.
Mm.
I think this is an apocalyptic statement because it mathematically it can happen either two ways. Either that humanity is in constant decline, so there will be no prophet like Moses, no wise man than Solomon, etc. So it's just going to decay. And then the question is, when is God, what is God waiting for? Does he wait us to get up to absolute zero? The other alternative is that there is no general decay, but time is limited. So statistically, in the time allotted, there will not appear a person as wide as Solomon, because if humanity is not decaying mathematically and time is infinite, then there's going to be somebody wiser than King Solomon.
Well, maybe consider, maybe it's true in the sense of how much complexity has been introduced into the world since the time of King Solomon. And maybe it's that he was the guy who was the best able to understand the most of the world as complex as it was at that given point in time. So
That's a very interesting idea, but I would also say that biblically, both time is limited, and there is some degree of what we call Yeridat Hadorot, each generation being further and further away from both creation and Sinai.
yeah, and well, and also, wisdom's that paradoxical thing where you have wisdom when you realize the degree of your lack of wisdom. So if you realize, so anyone who thinks I'm the wisest is a fool. Any person who says I'm a fool is beginning to become wise. But if you stay on that path towards wisdom, you will probably realize that you're never going to achieve ultimate wisdom. And so instead, you have to rely on God and recognize your dependency on Him, and you have faith, which is not belief in things with no evidence, but it's that extension beyond the limits of your own wisdom to trust in God. So, I mean, wisdom.
Wow, I
Sorry,
with
I
your
didn't get the answer. If there is ירידת הדורות, if there is constant decay,
yeah.
what is God waiting for?
Well, God. So this is where the concept of Gilgul Neshamot becomes so important. So, according to the Arizal, transmigration of souls, the way transmigration of souls, which some people may call reincarnation, works in Judaism is it's like failing a grade. And what happens when you have a high school and uh, all of the students who are there are people who already failed a grade? You have a selection bias. So as the generations progress, and you only have people who have already failed a grade in the high school, you're going to have worse and worse students in the high school. Make sense?
Yes.
Yes, I understand the concept. I'm trying to digest it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And for the Christians who might wonder about this Jewish concept, I would say it's even evident in the Christian Bible, because when the Jesus asks his disciples, who do you say I am? There are people who say that he is Elijah, and there are people who say he is John the Baptist. Um, and think about it, like everybody, the execution of John the Baptist was a famous thing that had happened within the lifetime of Jesus. So this idea that he could be John the Baptist, right? It's a different concept of Gilgul Neshamot than I think most people have actually considered, but it's a Jewish concept that I think was very present throughout the Second Temple period, and you can even see hints of in
So,
the Bible.
so in that case, it's it's not a reincarnation that like where because like I guess whatever, like in the Buddhist way, or like when they're trying to figure out the Dalai Lama is some like the idea is like, oh, it's like you would have to be like when a person dies and then like the moment of conception or something for the new but
People can be engendered in the Jewish notion. People can be engendered with the souls of other people. And there is this idea of reverberation of souls throughout the generations.
Okay, well, all right, this is like, because I from what I understand, well, so how do we classify like souls or spirits and souls, or is that two distinct things? Or
so there are several different words that are used in the Bible for this concept of soul, including nefesh and neshama, which you could call spirit and soul. And they are and ruach and chaya, and classically we also include this thing called the yechida, right? But hey, Nate, if you want to jump on, you can jump on. But so there are different levels of souls, different parts of souls, but what you will notice if you read in the Hebrew, the Psalms, is people will talk to their souls, right? Barchi nafshi, right? It is a command. It's in the feminine, to my soul, right? Oh, my soul, bless the Lord, right? Barchi nafshi. So this concept of speaking to our souls, the prayer Elokai Neshama is one of the oldest prayers in Judaism. It's already in the Talmud in Hebrew, not in Aramaic. My God, the soul which you have given me, Elokai Neshama Shenatata Bi, right? And like the idea of me speaking to my soul, right? It does not go with the normal Christian view of what a soul is.
Yeah, well, I know, like, I don't, like, I think the kind of way that many people understand it, is, in the kind of like the whatever soul as spirit, in like a disembodied nature, that like it is, especially when they say like that's like you're the real self, and then like that the body is like an empty shell. I guess I was thinking a soul was, or maybe it's just a person, but a person is a body and a soul, or a body and a spirit. It's not. And obviously this is what Christians are supposed to believe, in that the resurrection is the resurrection of bodies, and it's a reuniting of the part that's not in the body with the body that's there. And so, like a ghost or whatever, is a disembodied spirit. It's not a complete person. It's an incomplete person.
Right. Yeah. I mean, true.
But then I guess also there's a spirit and like breath distinction, because you wouldn't say, so maybe that's like, because you would say like a ghost doesn't have breath, because it's dead.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have spirit. It's not
One of the things I think is also very important is to not be overly literal. So one of the things that we say about when the Bible says things in multiple ways, in ways that aren't incredibly clear, is if it was more clarifiable, God would have clarified it more clearly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you know enough for what you need to do and accomplish with your purposes.
Right. And so
certainty might lead you down some bad path or whatever. I mean,
yeah, and with an absolute belief that we cannot explain things better than the Bible explains them itself, right? And I think this is a major difference between, like, especially creedal Christianity, right? Where someone will come up with a systematic theology or a creed or something like that, right? And will say, oh, well, here it is. This is a distillation of the important parts of the Bible. Whereas certainly in Judaism, we would say, oh, like, you think you restated the Bible better than God did? Are you sure about that?
I mean, obviously there's a purpose, because those things always come when people are trying to figure out real problems. They should just put expiration dates on them. That's all. Like,
I could, yeah.
I mean, well, it is kind of like the whole thing of like the seculum, the age of living memory, because I mean, on the one hand, it's like you can't go like total postmodern and say like a document written in the 1600s or the 1700s, like we have no idea what it meant to end. Like we have a gist, we have a general idea, but we can try to figure out how language has changed in its use, but it's impossible, or it's stupid to think like if you take the whatever Westminster Confession and like it gave it to a bunch of ignorant people in the year that it was written and a bunch of ignorant people today, and just said, follow, study this document and figure out like how it works, you're going to get different results.
Right. I mean, so the 13 principles of faith were controversial because they even the fact that Maimonides kind of distilled things down like that. But generally what we would say is, okay, this is a simple iteration of things which the Bible explicitly teaches many, many times over. And the only reason we would even gather it together is because it is something that the Bible reiterates over and over again, right? Like, you don't even need one citation. I think it should be self-evident when you read the 13 Principles of Faith that they are clearly taught throughout the Bible. It's not like it's teaching you something new.
I was thinking about something. Well, yeah, when I was watching that thing about the Catholic megachurch, and I was thinking about the thing about translation and there's so many English translations of the Bible, and obviously more. And some people say, yeah, it's because they want to make money, like it's a copyright thing or whatever. But I do think that English is changing faster than a lot of other languages are or have, because it's so it's the connecting language for so many different other languages and cultures and fields of study and stuff. And those other connections are influencing the way English is used and changed, because we borrow words from other cultures all the time, but the thought I had was, I wonder how has now that people are speaking Hebrew, like the modern Hebrew, has that changed or caused people to re-articulate or whatever aspects of the Hebrew understanding of Scripture?
Well, now that more people know Hebrew, there's definitely a lot more engagement with Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's so. For example, a lot of things like the various stones or animal names and stuff, right? I think now that people actually speak Hebrew, there's a lot less of just glossing over, oh, this is a bunch of names of things I don't necessarily know, right? Yoav actually would be much better to speak to this.
Yeah.
Yoav, did you want to comment?
Yeah, that is confusing because the modern Hebrew will sometimes throw you off course, especially with names of animals. When you read about bears coming out of the forest, in modern Hebrew there will be bears, but in ancient Hebrew there might have been wolves, or there might be hyenas or jackals, or you don't really know because some of the meaning just got lost.
Yeah. That's like
so,
how apple and corn, apple used to just be a word for fruit, and corn used to just be a word for grain. But now they have specific more specific meanings.
Yeah. For example, when you read the visions of Yechezkel, you come about the mentioning of electricity. And you think, spooky, electricity in those times. But it's just that the word changed meaning. It wasn't it didn't refer to electricity at the time. It was referring to...
So I don't know if you know about this, Yoav, but there are Haredim who refuse to say the word chashmal. They still say electricity because
Why?
because it was one of the so chashmal is the word in the Bible which now is used for electricity, but the chashmalim are considered, especially in the more mystical texts, to be a class of angels. And when people started using the word chashmal, there are people who vehemently oppose the use of the word chashmal for electricity, particularly because of that confusion.
Yeah, Yon God should go back to the origin of the word electricity in Greek, to electron. And I think that the term electron and chashmal
Mhm.
are related. They describe, not related, describe the same thing. Yeah, but
I will tell you, in rabbinic texts, you will see some rabbis who are, when they are writing responsa, they will write specifically about electricity, and they will transliterate it into um, Hebrew letters, and they will not. And sometimes, in quotes, it'll say hanikret chashmal, it's which people would call chashmal, but they will
So-
not use the word chashmal.
Is that what is that? What is it in like English translations of the Bible? What's it?
Oh, the word chashmal in the Bible. Well, here.
I forgot the English term. You know, when the
Is it
sap
like
of
is
a
it
tree-
supposed to be like lightning, but like the
No,
you
no,
know,
no,
does
no,
it
no,
go-
no, no, no. There is the precious stone that is the solidified sap of a tree. I forgot the name in
amber?
amber, exactly. So it's
Oh,
amber.
okay.
So chashmal in Ezekiel 1:4. So
And because when you polish it, you build up that static electricity on the thing or whatever on the cloth.
Yeah.
Yeah, ke'ein hachashmal mitoch ha'esh. In the center of the fire, a gleam as of amber. Yeah. So that's the word that's become the. But I think the reason why it's become is because that's what's used in Arabic, isn't it? Isn't that how they say electricity in Arabic?
So, but that is that
I
like
don't know. I don't know. How do they say? I don't.
more or less it's the thing because because that's what it's saying about a flashing fire. That's lightning, right? Like that's what's being described there. We can assume.
I guess. No, I was wrong. Kahraba is electricity in Arabic apparently. I mean, we can look at what the King James says. Ezekiel 1:4 says. Ezekiel.
Okay, but what happens with
Well, I don't know.
modern
I mean,
Hebrew?
I'm sure the King James probably says the same thing. I wonder if they would do. They probably like the NIV or something. They might have it.
Okay,
like
so
lightning.
NIV 1:4. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal.
That's strange. Yeah, that's different. That's very different.
King
Yeah,
James.
but really you don't know. You're guessing
Yeah.
here.
Well, I mean, because I don't. I'm just thinking because I don't think. Well, because like it's like when God lights the offering on Mount Carmel there with Elijah. Is it like a fireball or is it a lightning bolt? Like or because a lightning bolt causes fires.
That one is esh. Generally, with the altar, it's always esh. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
this is the only time the word chashmal is used in the entire Bible. It looks like it's only shows up in Ezekiel 1. Yeah, 1:4 and 1:27.
It's very interesting. I wonder like that they translate that as molten fire, but amber is an interesting thing because if you don't have, because it will like if you polish it, it'll put it's like when if you have like a wool and whatever they use wool for stuff, like you put like a wool blanket on your head or whatever, and it'll make those little sparks. You can see it in the dark, like I wonder. I mean, because then you're seeing little lightning bolts. But if it's molten metal, that's a very different thing, So I don't know. It's interesting.
NIV says molten metal, and KJV says. Let's see what the ESV says. Where's the ESV?
I wonder if the other part where we talked about the clouds and the fire and whatnot, if they probably do translate that as lightning in some other places.
ESV also does gleaming metal.
Now, the trick with Hebrew is once you reduce the word to 4 letters, you can make you can be creative with it because electricity is too long a word. Chashmal is already short. I mean, usually a root in Hebrew is 3 letters, but 4 letters will do. So if you want to make the word for electrician, automatically you have chashmalai. So once you introduce chashmal as a root, then you get the modern Hebrew can be built upon it, and you have a complete set of modern terms that you can use around it, and therefore the rabbis cannot fight it. I mean, people will use the word chashmal for till kingdom come because it's so useful, and because that's the way the language works. Apropos, trip report from France. There is something that is called the Doomsday, the Apocalypse tapestry. It's a tapestry is like a carpet that you hang on the wall.
Yep.
But it's long. It's several hundred meters long, and it's divided to frames. So it's like a film, frame by frame. You go through it, and you as if you go through an animation. And it's the book of Revelation, the Apocalypse. So in the early Middle Ages, for the illiterate, they have the movie. Once a year, they would be shown the movie, and things were explained to them. Interesting thing about it is that, of course, it was cast into the politics of the day, with the bad guys and the good guys associated with the politics. I think it's the 100 Years' War with France against England, if I remember correctly. So the narrative was then contemporary. And this is an example how memes can die. Because when I watch this film now, without a learned explanation of the guide, I will understand nothing. I'm Jewish, I never read the book of Revelations, and I don't know enough about the politics of the 14th century. So it's all Greek to me. I'm just seeing pictures, and I don't understand what I'm seeing. So what Peterson is saying about narratives, evolution of narratives, and what Jonathan Peugeot is talking about narratives, what we get today are the successful ones. There are a lot of dead narratives on the way.
Well, okay. Well, here's a question. So maybe, I don't know if you can get a picture, look it up or whatever, because, when you look at the book of Revelation, it's pulling on all these things from Daniel and Ezekiel and things like that. And a lot of there's like definitely a very strong kind of recapitulation of the Exodus with the 10 plagues and a lot of parallels there. So if you look at that tapestry, can you see something reminiscent of the Exodus in it, or is it completely different?
It's completely different because it's European law. You get a lot of multi-headed Hydra dragons from the Greek literatures. You see the picture of death as a skeleton once. Basically, you have to be a European of the 14th century to understand the picture.
Okay. Then this is why I'm always think that Jonathan Peugeot's whole project is so random and arbitrary, because he thinks that it's really important for us to know all the symbolism from the Middle Ages, when this stuff is just there in the Bible and it's got its own like, well, why do we have to translate it into the Middle Ages and then into like whatever's going on in modern times? We can just skip the middleman. Yeah.
Yeah, I have another book report, trip report. There was a discussion in the TLC about a week ago about boomer morality and the Second World War being the second of the boomer worldview, and the center of the boomer sense of right and wrong. And this is very well depicted in Normandy, where I'm traveling, because you have two kinds of shrines, and basically nowadays whoever can afford or wants to have such a trip are boomers. I'm a relatively young boomer, but people as old as I am and older, coming from all over the world as pilgrimage, to see two kinds of shrines. The first kind of shrine is the cathedrals, the large cathedrals.
Mm-hmm.
And really magnificent smaller churches on the way. The second kind of shrine, which people are flocking in as much of numbers, are the Second World War memorials. And there are memorials, museums, cemeteries, and cemeteries are already a holy place. So you can really see the boomers conducting the pilgrimage to the, I wouldn't say celebrate, to join in that secular religion.
Yeah.
And when I said to somebody, not meaning to offend, that war is not really my war, I meant that I was waiting for the missiles from Iran, and they cared more about them than the Second World War Museum. But it was taken as an offense, that as well, your religion is not my religion. It's quite an offensive statement.
Well, you know what is funny, and this is some of the real power of it. It's because it's not like, so, there was the article that Paul talked about that that Christianity or whatever was the mass Western religion, and it's centered on like the positive example of Jesus, but then he replaced it with Hitler as the bad guy, and that's the unifying thing. But lots of religions have bad guys. And so he's not just playing the bad guy in the new version of like the Christian religion, but he's doing it in like a lot of other religions too. Like, because the one that I kept thinking of was that movie Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. Did you ever see that? So it's like a Disney movie from like the 70s or whatever, but it takes place in World War II. It's kind of the same premise as like the Narnia. The kids get sent away in the English countryside, but the lady that takes them in is a witch, or she's like learning how to be a witch. So she's got like this old spell book, and they go and try to find this thing because they're trying to learn this spell. And then at the end of the movie, they use the spell to reanimate all of these suits of armor and like Revolutionary War type uniforms, and up till like even, I guess, like the World War I uniforms, and they're these empty costumes holding weapons fighting the Nazis who have secretly invaded this little town in England. And so it's like a totally pagan kind of a thing, but they still make the Nazis the bad guys. So that, it's like, so, and when I said the bad part of it is that now that people are rejecting that whole thing, they're they're going back to paganism as much as, you know, some people are trying to return to Christianity or other things, because it co-opted all the religions in a weird sense. So yeah, it's just very, very strange. I mean, it is certainly in Hollywood, like, you know, a quick way to make a buck was to have some Nazis to beat up on.
You don't make a schism by having one bad guy. You can have schism like discussing the role of Montgomery or the role of Patton. Who was which nation fought the bravest? Who was the best general? You can see differences in a British cemetery will not look like an American cemetery. Apropos America, there is a museum by the American graveyard in Omaha Beach, and it's the only museum in France, I think, when they'll not let you bring a knife into the museum. Because it's a federal building, and it's a federal building, they have to check that you don't put a knife into the museum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have experienced that in Washington before.
That's a definite American-British split in culture.
The History Channel went from Nazis to aliens, apparently.
Yeah, that's the predictive programming. They're priming us for the next narrative that gets unleashed on us.
So I have been thinking a lot about the fall of the Soviet Union, because the fall of the Soviet Union was a very, very major event. And by every major indication, it should be the most important single event of my lifetime. Like, I don't think you can make an argument that anything was more impactful than it, on a global scale, than the fall of the Soviet Union. I have difficulty remembering what year that was. It certainly did not majorly affect my life personally, but I would say generally, I mean, all three of us were alive during the fall of the Soviet Union. I think
Is it like 1991 or something? Or is that when the Berlin Wall came down?
What Nate says.
Yeah. Yeah, 1990 December. Okay, officially December 25th, 1991. That's an ominous date.
I mean, like, it was really, really important.
That's the White Witch couldn't keep Father Christmas out of Narnia anymore.
Can you say that it was an apocalyptic event? I mean, we make fun of Francis Fukuyama's book, The End of History, about it, because it was a mistake to think that the world would be so different afterwards. Yet, and so I keep on thinking there are things which could be similarly impactful or even more impactful. I listened to Yale University's course on the Renaissance. I mean, the Middle Ages, not the Renaissance. And the basic thesis of the entire course, the entire semester, was the Roman Empire fell, and for 1,000 years, nobody realized it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, when do you say that Rome fell? What year did Rome fall? I think a Christian could very well say in the day that Jesus died.
Yeah, probably so. That was the killing blow.
And I mean, you could say 70, you could say 120, you could say Nicaea, right? But there are people who still think that they are the inheritors of Rome, right? And so it's that reality and that sense of scale has been kind of haunting me for the past few weeks.
Yeah.
Well,
9/11 was the moment. Well, 9/11 was it. This fall of Soviet Union. It's weird how like 9/11 versus like something that's such a negative thing, and it's such an attack. So it's a pointed moment. Like a collapse is a very strange thing. It's like kind of,
I mean, I think it highlights the fact we don't see positive things the same way as we view negative things. Pearl Harbor, day that
live in infamy.
You live in infamy. Whatchamacallit? The day that JFK was assassinated, right? But when you think about the fact of it is the fall of the Soviet Union, like, I don't think in 1990 you would be a serious person if you predicted, oh yeah, the Soviet Union's not going to be around in 2 years.
I wonder. Well, like maybe I don't know, because it's saying that it officially ended on December 25th, 1991. I remember I was watching something about it, and there was some like point of contention or whatever where then the bad thing didn't happen, and I don't remember exactly what it was. I think Burn Power made a video about it.
I think the coup against Gorbachev that failed.
Yeah, maybe that must have been what it is, something like that. But it is interesting because it's like you think a thing is invincible until something like that happens. Like, you could have been there the day before and be like, this empire is going to last for forever, and then you find out, oh wait, it's actually super weak. I do think, from what I've heard, I wonder if in the Islamic countries that like the younger generations, it's interesting, going back to our discussion that people don't talk about their beliefs, but like I've heard that it's basically many of the young people are like, we just want to be Western. We don't care about this anymore. But it's interesting if there's a social, taboo against discussing that openly, that I wonder if, there's going to be a point when they realize, hey, we're in charge now. The people that would get us in trouble aren't here. And then it's, it may very well also collapse in a large way.
That was my hope for the Arab Spring, and let's not underestimate how real the Arab Spring was. I mean, Gaddafi is gone. Bashar al-Assad is gone now. Nasrallah is gone now. And frankly, it looks like Israel has taken out a lot of people. Like the bombing over the past day, like apparently these were a lot of assassinations. It wasn't buildings that were taken out. It was people that was taken out. And like if history progresses one death at a time, like I don't know. And yes, I think Michael Malice was kind of right about that.
It's I wonder if there what would be then, if there's it would be interesting to see like the Islamic world get all excited about Western values when everybody in the West is over Western values or whatever.
And you have people like that Tate guy, Andrew Tate is his name?
Andrew Tate,
converting to Islam.
Yeah, because it's the most based.
Yeah.
Because it legitimizes his polygamy. It's funny too. Well, it is kind of funny, like because like how the different cultures can be like behind the times or whatever. Because it seems like like so many of the Mormon exodus is people. Mormons are discovering woke, and this has been going on for a few years, but like they're discovering like wokeness now, and that's why they're leaving or whatever, or like LGBT rights or whatever, and like that's what they're bothered with. That the Mormon Church like held their line on that and didn't affirm it, and it's like
okay. I have a very different view on that, but yeah, go ahead.
I have another trip report. This is Pride Month now, celebrated in secular Tel Aviv. So already the 31st of the last month, you could see the rainbow flags flying over restaurants, pubs, high-tech companies. In normal times, you will have a gay parade. I don't think they will have much of a gay parade nowadays because of external reasons. So Gay Month is a huge celebration in secular Tel Aviv, has been for many years.
But by the way, the word guy in Hebrew means pride. So that's how Yoav is using it. Go ahead.
Yep. And I've been going all through half of France for 10 days now. Lots of British flags, French flags, American flags, local flags. Not one rainbow flags anywhere in France. Maybe I could find it in Paris, but I haven't got as far as Paris.
I haven't been going around much in Los Angeles. I did see one. But yeah.
Well, I know like last year this was a hard thing for my wife because she decided that she was going to stop doing the curbside pickup at Target for the month of June with some like other moms on Facebook or whatever, and she's basically addicted to that service. Like, but then like this year they didn't put out any stuff at all or whatever, and it's like I didn't see anything until I saw a thumbnail for a Matt Walsh video complaining about it, and it's like, yeah, the company that needs us to remain hysterical about this stuff is the only one. It seems like it's the only ones talking about it or whatever. Which I mean, honestly, that's good. It's good if people just like forget it rather than like we don't want pogroms or anything like that. Just
I agree.
Yeah. So let's just
move on.
Move on. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now that we have the internet and everybody can know everything about every detail of a person's life, maybe we've discovered the reason why the Chesterton's fences of privacy. It existed for very good reasons, and we're gonna put some of those back up.
Paul Vanderklay, one of the things that he said that really stuck with me is people really need how to remember how to use closets again. He was saying it in relation to like the whole synod thing was people like the value of closets is real.
Yeah. It's funny because like I was gonna say Kale wrote a thing about that whole Glenn Greenwald thing or whatever, and I was saying like it's interesting like because I noted before like that like the conservatives that were gay like previously, like people like Douglas Murray or whatever, it's like they are like the most like conscientious in all aspects of their life. I mean, essentially because they can make, probably because they can see like, oh yeah, if we eliminate like privacy, which like that's not good. Then it's like, but then some of the like later, probably could say like Glenn Greenwald seemed to jump on the thing more so like, oh yeah, I really don't want privacy to he jumped in when it was looking like it was closer to really like trouble was really going to come or whatever. He was behind the curve is what I'm saying essentially, I think. Because he was one of, I mean, and there was many people because it's like, that have adopted the conservatism because the left went too far in all things. So, yeah.
This Kale wrote something about it?
He wrote something about it, and then then he wanted to throw in a thing about Ayla on there, and I thought that was not productive because probably like people that some portion of his blog probably wouldn't even know what her deal was if he didn't mention her in the blog. And she was most recently on Twitter because everybody was already like lambasting her bad takes. And so, you don't need to like, because I think that she should just be ignored, pitied and ignored. And especially by Christians because of the connections that she has with Christianity and her upbringing and Christians
I don't know much about her. I have been trying to ignore her. I don't understand.
I mean, the one article I actually shared it. I actually shared it with my father-in-law. She wrote one article about the like super fundamentalist parenting like curriculum that her parents employed. And the insane like discipline and stuff. And it's really bad. Like, so her dad's an apologetics guy and definitely one of those ones that like, I don't think I would get along with that guy.
This reminds me, did you watch the episode on Christianity on the Spectrum about Christian parenting?
Yes, that came out. Yeah, that came out right after that article dropped or whatever. Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that episode. Like there's a lot. Well, I have to say, like Dobson seems to get scapegoated a lot for all of the world's problems, while there is a certain amount of parenting that claims to be like Reformed theology that also is just obviously bad parenting.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that in her article or whatever, so she's autistic, and then basically said like, "Oh, my dad's autistic too," but her dad went in this totally crazy way with it, and like he was like an adult convert or whatever, and basically, yeah, it's just like the most rational, like extreme version of like Calvinism, like hyper Calvinism, and super into the presuppositional apologetics. Like he's all in on that. And so basically it's just like anybody who's not a Christian and a Calvinist, he can just say everything you say doesn't make any sense at all, and like it just, yeah. But he does not seem like a good guy. I mean, and it's yeah, it's just one of these things where it's like, yeah, I don't know how you don't like, because I think my parents definitely had a lot of like James Dobson stuff that they mentioned in the podcast. I'm pretty sure they had like, I was the strong-willed child of the three of us. But I think they realized like just being normal, like loving people, like maybe we could just try to go 900% on like following these rules, but it seems like it's not accomplishing what we want to. And then they like eased up, and it was like they were, and it was because they were like, they didn't really grow up in Christian homes, and so they were like, we don't know anything about raising kids, but we know that Christianity is important, so we want to try to do things right and get all the resources and yeah. But it's interesting how it can just bypass that like normal instinct to just like love and nurture your kids. And sometimes you can be lazy in not disciplining your kids, for sure, like, and you can let them get away with more than they should, but but you obviously can definitely go too much the other way too. So
yeah, she apparently made over $100,000 a month on OnlyFans, which is amazing.
yeah, well, I mean, it is kind of crazy. Even the thing of like her childhood is that like clearly she's super smart and super like dedicated and just totally went. And this is the thing. It's like we say like she totally rebelled against everything her parents taught her, but they taught her things that are good, while along with a absolutely horrific embodied example of those things, like propositionally good things with a terrible example of it. So it's like, yeah, it makes sense that she doesn't want anything to do with God or Christianity or whatever, because you basically like poisoned it or whatever, but Kale didn't really think that he didn't think that was a good enough excuse to not like repudiate her message. But I'm like, you have to be like deep in the weeds to be getting to weird Ayla opinions. It's not like Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's like a gateway drug for young girls into like, a glamorous lifestyle. Like if a girl is paying attention to Ayla, like she's there was like 7 million road stops that she like blasted through before she got there, so like it's not the person that you have to worry about the influence. And so then when you just make a piece saying like this is a bad thing, you're actually you're giving her more clout and more exposure than she already had.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that I think the only real response to is to try to ignore them.
Yeah.
And it's hard to actually go ahead and ignore things that you need to ignore. Yeah. Yoav, say something interesting.
About the fall of the Soviet Union, an anecdote. There was a university who was asked by the Minister of Education supervisor to submit a plan, submit the names of the PhD students and the subject that they're going to research in the next 30 years.
Okay.
Think about what I said. The PhD students and the subject they will the research for the next 30 years.
Why 30 years?
Because that was the zone they were planning.
Uh-huh.
They wanted to allocate resources in advance for 30 years, so they needed to know the names and the subject of the PhD students.
Okay.
This is an example of a
But
bureaucracy.
those people are not born yet.
Exactly, I said, think about what I'm saying, because it sounds very reasonable until you think about it.
Yeah.
Never mind the subject of research for the next 30 years. It was a bureaucracy, self-sustaining, self-believing bureaucracy, which got nonsensical and disengaged from the core of Russia. Not that I understand Russia or anybody understands Russia, but some other institutions in Russia never changed. For example, the general staff, the army, the general head, the institute of the general staff of the army, the academies that are educating officers to become eligible to be member of the general staff. They have been slowly evolving since the war with Sweden, perhaps in the 17th century. There are constants in Russia. So it's like a religion. If you have most of it constant, then you can always innovate.
If you have most of it constant, then you can innovate.
So Russia is what Russia always has been. And the Soviet Union was an outer coat put on Russia that Russia could shed.
I think most PhD programs are designed to be 5 years. That was my understanding.
Yes, of course. Or 3 years. Designed to be 3 years, actually happening over 5 years.
That marketing guy that I was talking about, he has, he talks about how like kind of the bureaucratic decision making or whatever, it always ends up with these stupid solutions to problems or whatever. Like, because he was saying talking there, like in Europe where they still use trains a lot more, that they'll be like, how can we reduce the travel time between these two cities by like 10%? And it's this enormous feat of engineering because they're already like pretty good or whatever. And, it's going to cost like billions and billions of dollars. And then he just says, if you put Wi-Fi on the trains, people won't care that how long it takes for them to get to work because they can work while they're on the train. Like, and he said, even said like you could if you did that, you could also just take all the money you saved and you could like pay supermodels to walk up and down the aisles and pour champagne for people, and you still come out way ahead. So it's just money.
Yeah, it's high
efficiency or whatever is like.
Okay, the prediction is that the European Union is the outer coat put over the long, ever-standing tradition of what Europe is. not necessarily one entity, but whatever the community of Europe is. And Europe can shed this coat from one day to the next and still remain Europe.
I mean, has Europe ever been anything other than the Germans and the Italians trying to influence the British? Like,
Oh, it's a very complicated game. Don't.
I think Europe is less complicated than it likes to think itself. I think China is a lot more complicated. China,
Okay.
the individual country, is a lot more complicated than Europe, the entire continent. Yet we treat the continent of Europe as, first of all, it's not even an actual continent. It's actually a small archipelago. But like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not commenting on China because we don't understand China, except what we know about every political system, that it is an oligarchy. Because everybody is. Europe is complicated. Just Italy. How many different states Italy is made of? How many dialects? How many types of cheese are there in France? How many states Germany? Germany is still divided very sharply between, if you look at the election results, the division between West and East Germany cannot be denied. And that's just Belgium. There's at least two states. England is London and the rest of it. Europe is infinitely complicated.
Yeah, I misspoke. Jan God is correct. It is a peninsula, not an archipelago.
What is?
Europe.
Yes. It's the part of Eurasia that is divided from the rest by the Ural Mountains. Very significantly so.
Adam, if you had a very balanced Chinese woman teaching you Chinese, you should have asked her out on a date.
Yep.
So if your wife is with you, Yoav, then you weren't going for work, or you were going for work and you took the wife along?
Oh, that's a vacation.
Aha.
It's a very long vacation.
Longer than you had anticipated.
Okay, it's complicated. First, I had a vacation with my son in Hungary, in Budapest.
Okay.
And then I missed one Bible session. And then I came. I'll do it. Just a second. I'm on wife duty. Just a second.
Wife duty. Wife duty is good. I wonder what his wife thinks of. So Chazi's wife calls us, including me, Chazi's Jesus friends. I am Chazi's Jesus friend. I wonder what Yoav's wife thinks of us.
No.
She doesn't call us your Jesus friends.
She rather not think of the matter. But I think that on the whole, she's happy. I have fun, which is basically pro me having fun. Okay, so I had missed one Bible study because of being in Budapest. Then I went to a vacation at home over the holiday of Shavuot.
Mhm.
And then I flew with the wife to France, and I missed 2 lessons.
Mhm.
And now it's going to take longer than we thought, this vacation.
I don't know how much longer it's going to be. Apparently, Iran is counterattacking. As
Yeah, I got news from home during this broadcast. Quite significant hits.
yeah, that's what I'm seeing. We'll see what the results are when the dust settles. I don't know if they targeted Khamenei or not, and if
No,
they
not yet. Not yet.
not Khamenei, I don't. That's the one that really matters. I don't know what's going to have.
They know that they're in Iranian politics. Don't you worry. They know exactly what's going on.
Nobody knows
Uh,
exactly what's going on because, like, it's impossible to know what's going on in Iranian politics.
well, there are people in Israel that are very well informed, and as far as I gather, the head leader is not a target. Might become a target later. Uh, his wife said these guys are weird. My wife doesn't need to say it because I say it. I'm going to have a conversation with my weird friends. Uh, or sometimes I say with my Christian friends.
So your wife also.
No,
It's
no,
the
I preempt it. All the adjectives are coming from me.
I see. Yeah, I was very amused to be Chazi's Jesus friend. Yeah.
Well, Jesus, he loves Chazi.
Well, yeah, Jacob, my Jewish friend Jacob does make a frequent impact on my in real life Bible study. I'd have to say. So.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Jewish Jacob. I could believe it. Yeah, Jewish Jacob. Yeah. I've made it into PVK's sermon more than a few times.
Apropos Jacob, somebody was talking about Jacob much earlier in the stream. The comment he was a very bad husband to his 2 wives. And to that I can add it, he was also a very bad brother and not a very good son, but at least he was a good chef.
And maybe not a bad tailor either. Yeah. You could say similar things about Yosef. I'm not sure Yosef was the best son or the best father or the best brother, best husband. Ikhlas. Jacob knows more about evangelical culture from the 80s than I do, and I was raised evangelical in the 80s. Does he? Does he? I mean, I watched a lot of TBN growing up, that's for sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like, okay, you have to understand. I grew up, we didn't have cable, right?
I do understand that.
There was the international channel. There was, which I watched a lot of. There was 5 or 6 other channels, and then there was TBN. And certainly, like in the middle of the night, TBN was the most interesting. Yeah. Hey, Kirk.
Hello.
Dawn says, I feel more comfortable with these weird guys than I would walking up to any random house in my town alone and knocking on the door, not knowing what is on the other side.
I had to go knock on doors one time for something. It wasn't fun. I don't like it. I also, and then I don't have one of those like no soliciting signs, and then I'm always like, oh, someone's here. I have to like they've heard the dog barking. They hear the people inside. They can see the people in the window. I should probably acknowledge their existence, but I have no desire to pay for whatever they're trying to sell. But yeah.
I only watched real videos, basically then used YouTube being on there to lobby my mom to be able to buy Unforgettable Fire. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Real videos. Is that something that was on TBN?
I don't think so.
Because YouTube has that quasi-Christian element or whatever.
Yeah, I've heard there's been direct hits on Tel Aviv.
Yes,
Oh.
yes, it was on TBN.
Okay.
Hmm.
I guess I didn't
cool.
watch as much TBN as I thought. My wife says I'm not allowed to answer the door anymore. I always like hearing a good pitch.
Going back to what you said, that made me think. Well, if Joseph wasn't perfect and Solomon wasn't perfect and Jacob wasn't perfect, but we believe that they're not going to reincarnate. There's not going to be a wise man as Solomon again, meaning that the Solomon's soul has made it up. It's not going to reincarnate again. And the vision that I always have is the vision of Jacob's ladder, sort of a ladder that you can climb up and down with. And it seems to be a certain level. When somebody crosses the level, even though they're never perfect, then it disappears into the infinity. And this is mathematically very curious.
Well, we're still talking about him though. His wisdom is still making us wiser with the people that studying his writings and things. So that's not good.
Well, all I can say that my family was close enough so the older house was shaking.
I mean, the IDF asked to not share those videos, really?
Over a certain time of period. I mean, it would be it won't be a good thing if you share them immediately. But after an hour or two, the atmospheric background changes and things changes. It doesn't become as much as a liability if you share the video.
דובר צה"ל חוזר ומדגיש לא לפרסם לשתף מיקומי ותיעודי פיגועות. האויב עוקב את התיעודים אלה וכדי לשפר את יכולות הפגיעה שלו.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Yeah, of course, but it is an expiry date. If you share it,
I'm trying to learn Hebrew. I don't even understand what I'm
Fine.
reading. I'll teach stuff to mikomim bereshet. I didn't even that last
don't.
one.
Don't share locations over the net. Reshet net. Okay.
Bereshet means so that's like the internet.
Reshet net. Yes, of course.
Uh-huh.
Why not use small words? Because if you have the small 3-letter words, you can make a whole language out of it, and you can put it into molds.
Yoav, did they have freedom of the press protections in Israel for these types of things?
It's freedom of the press. It's
Yeah, well,
asking. They can ask.
He's asking you politely, okay?
Yeah.
And if you
Illegal.
share it nevertheless, then somebody can question your motives. And spies have been caught in Israel. There were real Iranian spies that have been caught.
Modern Hebrew is hard to read.
Is what?
Hard to read.
No. It's the easiest language in the world. I was born with it.
Everyone thinks about that about their native language.
Okay, Dover. Okay.
Dover, I got.
Dover. Okay, there was. Well, it's easy. Dover is the present tense of to talk. Okay. So if he is now talking, then he's Dover. Okay, because it's the present tense of the verb. Okay.
Chozer means to repeat.
Okay, but
Madgish means to accentuate.
A second.
Yeah.
Whenever you have the present tense does not exist in Hebrew. The present tense is always a noun. So if you are talking in the present tense, then it's your profession. It is the noun of the profession of the person who talks.
Yeah.
Okay. And okay, so that's Dover. Tzahal is a 3-letter acronym because everything in the army is a 3-letter acronym. Okay.
Yeah, it's the quotation marks. That's the Girshaim. That's how you know it's an acronym.
Yeah, but of course, as an acronym, because it's 3 letters, it has a meaning. Something like rejoice.
Israel.
Yeah, but if you take the acronym Tzahal, it's a 3-letter root. It's the root of to rejoice.
Really? Oh, Tzahalav Simcha. I didn't realize.
Yes.
That.
Okay, so you should be rejoicing in having an army.
I should. You're talking to the wrong person. You're talking to the wrong person.
Okay. Chozer. Chozer is the present tense. Yes. Of to repeat. Yeah.
Yeah.
But because it's this time, it is really a verb. Okay.
Yeah.
But it could have been used as a noun. Pamphlet.
Chozer actually is can be a whatchamacallit, can be a what do you call that? Somebody who announces for someone else. Yeah.
No. It's a pamphlet. It's a piece of paper.
In rabbinic courts, a chayzer is the Rebbe's like main student.
Okay, so it's a noun.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a verb in the present tense is always a noun, and it's easy because you can always distinguish between them because you know the language, because you was born with it. Nothing is simple than that. Yes. Okay.
If you can explain the grammar, it's not your native. He's right about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Madgish is hif'il, right? Causative.
Okay, so it is, dagesh is a stress, okay? It is to cause a stress to appear.
Yeah.
So he's creating, he's implying a stress.
Pirsum is not a Hebrew word, but it's a rabbinic word to publicize. Shituf is partnership, so
Yes,
it means to share.
yes.
Mikumi, I don't understand what I mean.
Okay, makom.
Makom,
Makom,
I understand. What's mikumi? What like
mikumei. Okay, it's the place of.
this is the weirdest smichut I have ever seen. Mikume teudei.
Vetilde.
Like this is not classic Hebrew. Like this would not fly in biblical Hebrew or rabbinic Hebrew.
But it is smichut, isn't it?
It's smichut with like it's chain smichut. Like it's smichut.
Yes.
You can't.
No,
You can't.
mikumei vetilde. It sounds a bit like kol nidre, you know, mikumei vetilde. Doesn't it sound like kol nidre?
Kol nidre is not Hebrew. It's in Aramaic.
Okay, who cares?
Who cares? This was the hardest part, actually. No, that, and I didn't know what reshet was.
Reshet is the net, of course.
But I was still able to put all the correct whatchamacallits, all the correct vowels, even though I didn't understand what I was reading.
Good. You see, it's a very easy language.
Well, bemiluim. I mean, modern Hebrew, you write bemiluim, so it's pretty easy to. When you write in miluim, it's not so hard to put the correct whatchamacallit. So, Michael, did you learn any Hebrew?
No,
Didn't think so.
I
no,
didn't
I
either.
did not.
Tzahal, 8 minutes ago. Tzahal tekef והשמיד בסיסים צבאיים של חיל האוויר האיראני. הושמדו עשרות מטרות השייכים למערך ההגנה האווירית של המשטר האיראני. The way
Okay.
Quran is wrong.
Okay, almost perfect. You say chayil, bli smichut. Because there is smichut, you will say chayil.
Chayil?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, because it's smichut.
It's not.
Shel chayil
Hello.
ha'avir.
And
Okay.
I not.
Okay.
Chayil, as we stand by itself, and chayil is b'smichut. I don't know why, but this is how it is.
What are matarot?
Matarot or targets? Let's see. Well, why is matarot a target? That's an interesting question. Where does matarot coming from?
I don't know what the word matarot means.
Targets, but I'm trying to think
like
why.
how- From neter? I don't know. I don't know what that word. Ma'arach means the hierarchy.
Arrangement.
Arrangement.
כמו שולחן ערוך.
Yo.
Yeah. Earlier today, Sahal struck. Is that what tekef means here? To strike?
Takaf, yeah, because it's the past.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
In the streets of
לא, ברחבי. No, okay. It's so easy. Rehov is a street, but רחבי is the width of. Throughout the width of.
Western Iran,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
army bases, well,
Yeah.
I mean, the defense bases of the Persian Hamadan and Tabriz. My family's from Tabriz.
Okay.
Yeah. בסיס תבריז הושמד בתוצאה מהתקיפה.
Ushmad, you know.
Yeah, it was destroyed.
Yes.
Or converted to Christianity.
Yes. Easy language. Either you're destroyed or you're converted to Christianity. You have to understand it from the contents, you know.
Aw, puppy.
What kind of puppy?
What are
is
you
this?
looking at? He's checking out the books.
That is a big lap dog.
He's like 25 pounds, maybe.
Mm.
He's pretty good. He's a pretty good medium-ish. I don't know.
What type of puppy?
He is a Cavapoo.
As in
Cavalier King
King
Charles Spaniel Poodle mix.
Uh-huh.
You want to show the people your face? And you want to get out of here.
I want to
He
reply.
wandered into the garage and he doesn't know why he did that now.
Rosh
I want-
Shemut. That's hilarious.
I want to reply to somebody saying that if I can explain the grammar, then it's not my native language.
Yeah.
This is actually a curious observation, because it's sometimes in high school, like at the age of 16, you study the grammar anew. After your 16s, of course, you're proficient in reading and writing, and you've gone through large chunks of the Bible, and then suddenly they teach you the grammar, because the Hebrew grammar is very analytical. You relearn the language in an analytical way, rather than intuitive way. And it's fascinating. It's called Dikduk. And then you see that the spelling that you learn by heart in first year has a sense. I mean, that you could have derived it logically, and you shouldn't, didn't need to learn it by heart.
Andrew, shouldn't you be asleep?
Yeah, but my sleep schedule's been a little wonky.
Did you just wake up?
Yeah, pretty much.
How was work?
Good, you know. It's pretty much like, 4 days of eat, sleep, work, and then weekend. Yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
What time is it where you are, Andrew?
Say again.
What time is it where you are?
1:30.
More Israeli censorship. Hoda'ah hashuva. Important notice. Chashafat. מיקומי נפילות ותיעודים ממרחבים בהם ישנם פגיעות. עזרת לאויב. You are
Azarta.
Oh, okay. You help.
Chasafta, azarta.
What's chasafta? Chasaf? What's chasaf?
Yeah.
What's chasaf?
Uncover.
Chasaf means to uncover?
What did you think?
I didn't know what to think.
Mhm.
Like, is that a biblical word? That's not a biblical word, is it? Is it a biblical root? Chasaf.
So what's going on with the CRC, huh?
Chasof zeroa kodshecha. It's from. Is it in? It's a Mishnaic word, apparently. Okay, it's not from the Bible.
Happens.
It does happen. There's a war happening, Andrew. You didn't notice?
Andrew,
I was
pay
busy.
more attention.
The big business at Synod 2025 is they're going to finish kicking people out. Although it seems people have gotten the message from what I've heard, mostly.
Is this going to affect Paul Vanderklay?
He's not getting kicked out. He's about as Orthodox gets in the CRC.
Okay.
They're standing on business.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens, but
Yeah, that's the wrong attitude. It should be the other way around. It's pretty relevant to him, but for the, things that distract you from all of your whole life because you saw it on the internet should. I don't know. You should think about what your stance is to that.
yeah, I guess. I mean, do CRC things actually affect me? They affect friends of mine, kind of.
Why isn't that World War III? Like, if World War III is gonna, the speculation of World War III, if it's keeping you from accomplishing something that's actually meaningful and significant in your own life,
yeah,
and the CRC Synod too, because we know Lance is probably, gonna want to weigh in or something. Some of the other the people that are strangely invested for whatever reason. I mean,
Well, I don't think that people who are speculating about World War III have much better to do.
I know that's the problem. There's something better you could do, and it's going to happen in like the state and probably town that you live in. And if you can't think of it, you need to go and find it.
Do you think those people who are speculating about World War III have the mental competency to do that?
Yeah,
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know. How do you get more competent? Not by being afraid on the internet.
So what's that 30-second pitch of what's happening with, I don't know, Israel and Iran or whatever?
Oh, it's the start of World War III.
I wouldn't say it's the start of World War III, but Israel
It's the
attacked
start of
Iran
the. It's the start of the end times.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can.
Sometime between now and 3.5 years from now, all of the Christians are going to be miraculously sucked up to heaven. and their clothes are just going to be laid out on the ground.
These are people in a bomb shelter. And I love the fact there's no mixed dancing. I mean, that's how you know it's an actual Jewish thing. There's no mixed dancing. Come on. Aren't you impressed?
I don't know. That was kind of what it looked like when I went to the homeschool prom, too.
There was no mixed dancing at the homeschool prom?
Oh, not really. No, I danced one song with the girl that I brought at the end.
Uh-huh.
That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if Russia has been supplying weapons to Iran for this.
Yes.
If they have been, I wonder if the United States is gonna do anything with regards to Russia because of the fact that, I mean, obviously the Trump administration loves Israel, but they don't. I don't know if as a result of this Iranian attack on Israel, they plan to retaliate against Russia in some way.
No. Russia has been selling all manner of weapons since the fall of the Soviet Union to all manner of countries all around the world. And yeah.
Andrew, what are you waving?
Looks like a pancake.
Andrew, didn't your parents teach you not to play with food?
All right. I'm going to leave.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might end the stream.
I'll give us 5 minutes. Maybe we can find something to talk about.
No, I got to go do real things with real people.
We are real people. We're not AI. I promise.
Okay.
The stream's been going for 4.5 hours. Okay, gentlemen, I think I am going to end the stream.
Okay.
All right.
And since it is CRC Conclave, we have to end it. I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed because he does need to get up in the morning.
Sorry, Reverend. Thank you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian. And I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes that devil's advocate thing too
Isn't there
far.
a proverb that says something like, don't answer a fool according to his folly?
But there's a proverb that says, answer a fool according to his folly.
There is. Exactly right. I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
The